Welcome to another deep dive.
Hi there.
Today, we're really digging into some pretty significant news from the tech world. We're focusing squarely on Microsoft's gaming division, Xbox. You might have seen some headlines flying around, but our mission here is always to unpack the details, the implications, what's really going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And our main source today is a recent Bloomberg report by Jason Schreier. He's reporting on Microsoft's plans for, well, major job cuts within Xbox, expected very soon, maybe even next week.
Okay, major job cuts. Let's get into that. So we're not talking small tweaks here, are we? The report says substantial cuts. What's the immediate picture look like? What kind of scale are we really talking about for Xbox?
Well, yes, substantial seems to be the word. For folks familiar with the plans, they're saying managers inside Xbox are bracing for pretty big cuts
Right.
right across the group. So it's not just, trimming around the edges. It feels broader.
Broader, okay.
And this isn't exactly new for Xbox either. That's kind of the key thing here.
Right. That's where it gets really interesting, I think. For you listening, this is actually going to be the fourth big layoff round at Xbox. Just in the last 18 months, you had three major cuts last year. They even closed some studios, remember? So this pattern, these recurring significant cuts, what's driving it? What does it tell us about Microsoft's strategy here?
Well, if you connect the dots, it points pretty clearly towards pressure. Intense pressure, really, from the top Microsoft executives. They want to boost profit margins. And that pressure, it seems, really ramped up after they bought Activision Blizzard.
Ah, the big one.
Yeah, that massive $69 billion deal that closed in 2023. You bring in something that huge, like Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, you inevitably have this sharp focus on making it pay off, making the numbers work. Efficiency becomes key.
So the cuts are maybe a sign that integration is tough or slower than hoped.
It could be. It strongly suggests they're really pushing to streamline operations and justify that huge investment. It's a big signal.
And it sounds like it's not just Xbox feeling this pinch based on a reporting. It's wider than the gaming division.
That's right, yeah. Bloomberg News also mentioned Microsoft is planning thousands of job cuts company-wide, also next week. A lot of those seem to be in the sales teams, apparently.
Okay, so company-wide. That adds context.
It does. It suggests a sort of broader push for efficiency across Microsoft. And the timing is interesting, too, isn't it?
How so?
Well, it often happens around this time, close to the end of Microsoft's fiscal year. That ends June 30th. Companies often make these kinds of moves, these workforce adjustments, when they're wrapping up the year's budget and setting targets for the next one. Late June is kind of prime time for this.
Right, planning for the new financial cycle. Makes sense.
Exactly.
Right.
Optimizing for the year ahead.
Okay, so let's piece this together for you listening. We've got recurring cuts at Xbox, this big push for profit after the Activision deal, and now wider company cuts timed around the fiscal year end. What does this tell us about, the state of play at big tech companies, and especially in the gaming world right now? Are we seeing a shift?
I think what it really underscores is this relentless drive for efficiency
Yeah.
and profitability, especially after such a massive buy like Activision Blizzard. It's a clear signal about maybe current industry strategies where just pure growth isn't the only goal anymore. It's about optimizing what you have, getting those margins up, and it definitely highlights how complex and sometimes challenging it is to integrate these huge acquisitions.
Yeah, exactly. So looking at the source, it really shows this consistent pattern. Restructuring driven by these big financial goals, not just, say, reacting to the market day to day. It seems very deliberate.
Deliberate is a good word for it.
So for you, this leaves us with a pretty important question to think about, doesn't it? What do all these continuous restructurings actually mean for people working in big tech? For employee stability, especially after these huge M&A deals, and maybe how does that ultimately affect the games, the products, the services we all end up using, both in gaming and maybe even beyond? Something to consider.